Maria clutched her starving infant brother as the merchant announced her auction price, $12 for a 12-year-old thief. Then an Apache warrior named Nako stepped forward with silver in his hand and words that would save them both. Come with me. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. The morning sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty streets of Silver Creek, New Mexico territory as 12-year-old Maria pressed herself against the weathered wooden wall of Thompson's General Store. Her hollow cheeks and sunken eyes told the story of weeks without proper nourishment. The threadbare dress that hung loosely on her skeletal frame had once belonged to her mother before the fever took both her parents 3 months ago. In her trembling arms, wrapped in a tattered blanket, her infant brother Samuel whimpered softly. At 8 months old, he was far too thin, his tiny ribs visible through the worn cotton shirt Maria had fashioned from one of their father's old garments. His cries had grown weaker each day, and Maria knew with a certainty that chilled her soul that if she didn't find food soon, she would lose the only family she had left. The aroma of fresh bread wafted through the open door of the store, making Maria's empty stomach clench painfully. She had stood in this same spot for the past hour, watching customers come and go, her mind racing with desperate plans. Mr. Thompson, the store owner, was a hard man with no patience for orphans or beggars. She had tried asking for work, for scraps, for anything, but he had turned her away with harsh words and threats to call the marshal if she didn't leave his property. But Samuel's cries were growing more insistent now, his small body racked with hunger pangs that broke Maria's heart. She adjusted her grip on him, whispering soft reassurances in Spanish, the language her mother had taught her before English. "Shh, mi amor. Pronto, very soon, I promise." The decision formed in her mind with a clarity born of desperation. She had no choice. Samuel needed to eat, and she would do whatever it took to keep him alive. With one final glance around the nearly empty street, Maria slipped through the doorway. The interior of the store was dim compared to the blazing sun outside. Shelves lined the walls, stocked with goods that might as well have been treasures from a distant kingdom, completely out of reach for a girl with empty pockets. Maria's eyes locked onto the counter where several loaves of bread sat cooling, their golden crusts still warm from the oven. Mr. Thompson stood at the far end of the store, his back turned as he arranged canned goods on a high shelf. Maria's heart hammered against her ribs so hard she feared it might wake Samuel, who had finally dozed off against her chest. This was it. This was her moment. She moved with the stealth of a shadow, each footstep careful and deliberate. Her thin fingers reached out trembling toward the closest loaf, just a little further, just a few more inches. The bread was still warm beneath her touch as she grabbed it, pulling it close to her chest alongside Samuel. "Thief!" The word rang out like a gunshot, freezing Maria's blood in her veins. Mr. Thompson had turned, his face purple with rage, one thick finger pointing accusingly at her. The bread slipped from her nerveless fingers, hitting the wooden floor with a soft thud that seemed to echo through the suddenly silent store. "Please," Maria whispered, her voice cracking. "My brother, he's starving. I'll work. I'll do anything. Just please." But Thompson was already moving toward her with frightening speed for a man of his size. "You little vermin, stealing from honest merchants." He grabbed her roughly by the arm, his fingers digging into her flesh like iron bands. "Marshal! Marshal Davis!" Samuel began to cry again, a thin wail that tore at Maria's soul. She struggled against Thompson's grip, not to escape, but to better hold her brother. "Please, don't hurt him. I took the bread, not him, please." The door burst open, and Marshal Davis strode in, his hand resting on the pistol at his hip. His eyes, cold and calculating, took in the scene with practiced efficiency. "What's the trouble here, Thompson?" "Caught this one red-handed, stealing bread. These orphans are becoming a real problem in this town, Marshal. Something needs to be done. Maria's legs gave out and she sank to her knees, still clutching Samuel. The world seemed to tilt and spin around her. This was the end. She had failed. She had failed Samuel, failed her parents' memory, failed at the one thing that mattered, keeping her brother alive. The marshal's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Stand up, girl. You're coming with me, and someone better figure out what to do with that baby." "No!" The word tore from Maria's throat as she held Samuel tighter. "You can't take him from me. He's all I have. Please, I'll go to jail. I'll do anything, but don't separate us." But strong hands were already pulling her to her feet, and Maria realized with crushing despair that the worst day of her life had only just begun. The jail cell smelled of mildew and despair. Maria sat on the narrow wooden bench that served as a bed, rocking Samuel gently as he whimpered against her chest. The iron bars cast shadows across the dirt floor, and through the small window high on the wall, she could see the sun beginning its descent toward the horizon. It had been 4 hours since Marshal Davis had locked her in this cell. 4 hours of terror, of wondering what would become of them. Samuel had cried himself to exhaustion, his small body limp with hunger and fatigue. Maria had nothing to give him, no milk, no food, nothing but the hollow comfort of her arms. The door to the marshal's office creaked open and footsteps approached. Maria looked up to see Marshal Davis, accompanied by a thin, severe-looking woman in a dark dress, buttoned to the throat. Her grey hair was pulled back so tightly it seemed to stretch her skin, and her lips formed a thin line of disapproval. "This is the girl?" the woman asked, her voice sharp and clipped. "Yes, Mrs. Hartwell. Maria Rodriguez, 12 years old, orphaned 3 months back when her parents died of fever. Been living on the streets since, apparently." The marshal's keys jangled as he unlocked the cell door. "Girl, this is Mrs. Hartwell. She runs the orphanage over in Santa Fe." Maria's arms tightened instinctively around Samuel. She had heard stories about the orphanages, cold, cruel places where children disappeared and were never heard from again. "Please," she whispered, "don't send us away. I'll work. I'll do anything." Mrs. Hartwell stepped into the cell, her sharp eyes examining Maria with the cold efficiency of someone evaluating livestock. "The orphanage is overcrowded as it is. We certainly don't have resources for infants. The baby would need to go to a foundling home." "No!" Maria scrambled to her feet, backing against the wall. "You can't take him. He's my brother. He needs me." "What you need, girl, is to understand the consequences of theft," Mrs. Hartwell said coldly. "Mr. Thompson is within his rights to press charges. You could spend months in this cell or worse. Is that what you want for your brother? To watch him starve while you rot in jail?" Tears streamed down Maria's face. "I was trying to save him. He was dying. He is dying. Can't you see that?" Marshal Davis shifted uncomfortably. "Look, Mrs. Hartwell, maybe there's another option. Thompson mentioned he might be willing to drop the charges if arrangements could be made." Mrs. Hartwell's expression didn't change. "Arrangements? There's an auction tomorrow, Trading Post. Some of the merchants are looking for workers, indentured servants basically. Girl could work off her debt to Thompson, get food and shelter. It's better than jail or the orphanage." Maria felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She knew what he was suggesting. She had seen the auctions before. Desperate people sold into servitude, their labor bought and paid for like cattle. "And Samuel?" she asked, her voice barely audible. The marshal looked away. "Baby's too young to work. He'd have to—" "I'll take them both." Everyone turned toward the new voice. Maria hadn't heard the outer door open, but now a man stood in the doorway of the office. He was tall and lean, with skin weathered by sun and wind. His clothing was a mixture of frontier wear and traditional Apache dress, leather vest over a cotton shirt, dark pants tucked into worn boots. His black hair hung loose past his shoulders, and his eyes were dark and unreadable. Marshal Davis's hand moved instinctively toward his gun. "Narco, what brings you to town?" The Apache man, Narco, stepped further into the office, his movements deliberate and calm. "Trade, pelts, and herbs." His English was careful, each word precisely chosen. "I hear what you say about the girl and baby." "This is none of your concern," Mrs. Hartwell said sharply. Narco's gaze shifted to Maria, and something in his expression softened almost imperceptibly. "I pay. For both. They come with me." Maria stared at him, her mind racing. She had seen Apache people before, usually at a distance, and the stories told in town painted them as dangerous, unpredictable. But something in the way this man looked at her, there was no cruelty there, no malice, only something that might have been understanding. Marshal Davis frowned. "You're talking about indentured servitude, Narco. That's a legal contract. The girl would be bound to you for at least 3 years. "I understand." Narco reached into a leather pouch at his belt and withdrew a small bundle. "I have silver. Mexican pesos. Good silver." Thompson, who had appeared behind Narco, his eyes gleaming with interest, stepped forward. "Let me see that." As the men examined the coins, Maria felt Mrs. Hartwell's cold gaze on her. "It's highly irregular," the woman said. "A young girl with an infant going to live with—" "It's legal," the marshal interrupted, "and it solves all our problems. Thompson gets compensation, the girl doesn't go to jail, and the baby stays with his sister." He looked at Narco. "You understand what you're taking on? A half-starved girl and a baby who's going to need milk, care, constant attention." Narco nodded once. "My family has room. We have food. They will not starve." Maria's voice came out as barely more than a whisper. "Why?" Narco's dark eyes met hers, and for a moment she saw something there, a flash of old pain, of memory. "I had a sister once. She was brave like you. She protected those weaker than herself." His voice was quiet but firm. "Come, my family will care for you both." In that moment, holding her dying brother in a jail cell, Maria made the decision that would change everything. She nodded. The papers were signed within the hour. Maria watched as Marshal Davis pressed the official seal into the wax, making her servitude legal and binding. 3 years. She would belong to Narco for 3 years, her labor payment for the crime of trying to feed her brother. The words on the contract blurred as tears filled her eyes, but she forced herself to remain steady. This was survival. This was the only way to keep Samuel alive. Thompson counted the silver coins with greedy fingers, a satisfied smirk on his face. He had gotten his payment and more. The price Narco had offered was far more than a single loaf of bread was worth. Mrs. Hartwell departed with a disapproving sniff, muttering about the declining moral standards of the territory. And then, just as the sun began to paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Maria found herself standing in the dusty street beside Narco, holding Samuel close, with nothing but the clothes on her back and a terror so deep it made her bones ache. Narco's horse waited at the hitching post, a strong paint mare with kind eyes. He approached the animal with practiced ease, stroking her neck and murmuring something in his own language. Then he turned to Maria. "You ride?" His voice was gentle, without judgment. Maria shook her head. Her father had been a shopkeeper, not a rancher. Horses were expensive, far beyond their means. "No, sir. Not Sir Narco." He gestured to himself, then mounted the horse with fluid grace. Once seated, he extended his hand down to her. "Give me the baby first, then I help you up." Every instinct in Maria's body screamed at her not to hand Samuel to this stranger, but she had already made her choice, signed the papers, sealed their fate. With trembling hands, she lifted Samuel up. Nako took him with surprising gentleness, cradling the infant against his chest with one arm while keeping the reins steady with the other. "Now you," he said, extending his hand again. Maria grasped it and with his help managed to scramble up behind him. The height made her dizzy, and she clutched at Nako's vest to keep from falling. He shifted Samuel carefully back to her, and she held her brother tight, feeling the rapid flutter of his heartbeat against her own. "Hold on," Nako instructed, and then they were moving. They rode out of Silver Creek as the last light faded from the sky. Maria looked back once, seeing the town lights beginning to flicker on, and wondered if she would ever return. Everything she had known, her parents' graves, the small room they had rented above the bakery, the streets where she and Samuel had been born, all of it disappearing into the gathering darkness. The journey was longer than Maria had imagined. They rode through the night, the horse's steady gait lulling Samuel into a fitful sleep. Nako said nothing, but occasionally he would glance back at them, checking silently that they were still secure. The landscape changed from the scrubland around Silver Creek to rockier terrain, with tall mesas rising like ancient sentinels against the star-filled sky. Maria's body ached from the unfamiliar position on horseback. Her legs cramped, her arms burned from holding Samuel for so long, and exhaustion pressed down on her like a physical weight. But she didn't complain. She had learned long ago that complaining changed nothing. As dawn began to break, painting the eastern sky in shades of gold and rose, they crested a ridge. Below them, nestled in a valley beside a clear stream, Maria saw a settlement unlike anything she had encountered before. There were no wooden buildings like in Silver Creek. Instead, she saw structures made of hides stretched over wooden frames, scattered in a loose circle around a central fire pit. Smoke rose from several of the dwellings, and she could see people beginning to move about their morning tasks. An Apache settlement, real and immediate and terrifying. Nako guided the horse down the slope with practiced ease. As they drew closer, Maria noticed people stopping their work to watch their approach. Women carrying water vessels paused mid-step. Children playing near the stream stood still, staring. Men mending tools or tending horses turned their attention toward the newcomers. Maria felt their eyes on her, assessing, judging, wondering. She was an outsider here, a white girl in a world that had every reason to distrust her kind. The stories she had heard in Silver Creek came rushing back, tales of raids, of violence, of the bitter warfare between settlers and native peoples. Her arms tightened protectively around Samuel. Nako brought the horse to a stop near the largest dwelling. An older woman emerged from inside, her face weathered and strong, her gray-streaked hair bound in traditional braids. She spoke rapidly in Apache, her tone sharp with what sounded like questions or perhaps accusations. Nako responded calmly, dismounting before helping Maria down. Her legs nearly gave out when her feet touched the ground. Only Nako's steadying hand kept her upright. Samuel stirred in her arms, beginning to whimper with that thin, desperate sound that meant hunger. How long had it been since he had eaten? 2 days? 3? The older woman stepped closer, her dark eyes examining Maria with an intensity that made the girl want to shrink away. Then her gaze fell on Samuel, and something in her expression shifted. She spoke again to Nako, her tone different now, concerned, perhaps even troubled. Nako nodded, then turned to Maria. "This is Desba, my mother. She says baby needs milk, needs food now." Maria's voice came out as a desperate whisper. "Please, he's so weak. I tried everything in town, but no one would help us." Desba studied her for a long moment, then spoke in halting English. "Baby, come, I have goat milk, fresh." She gestured toward her dwelling, then added more words in Apache to Nako. "She will care for him," Nako translated, "feed him, make him strong again. But you..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You must understand. People here have lost much to white soldiers, to settlers. They will not trust you easily. You must earn that trust." Maria looked into his eyes and saw the truth there. She was standing in a place where her very presence might be seen as a threat, a reminder of past violence and broken promises. But Samuel was dying, and this might be his only chance. "I understand," she said quietly. Nako nodded once, then spoke to his mother again. Desba approached Maria slowly, extending her arms for Samuel. This time, when Maria handed over her brother, it felt different than in the jail cell. This time, she saw in the older woman's eyes something that transcended language and culture, the universal knowledge of what it meant to protect the helpless. As Desba carried Samuel into the dwelling, Maria stood alone in the center of the Apache settlement, surrounded by strangers, further from everything she knew than she had ever been in her young life. The morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the valley, and Maria realized with stunning clarity that her old life was truly over. Whatever came next, there would be no going back. The first 3 days in the Apache settlement were the longest of Maria's life. She slept on a woven mat in the corner of Desba's dwelling, separated from the family's living space by only a hanging hide partition. Every sound was foreign, the cadence of the Apache language spoken around the evening fire, the songs sung by women as they worked, the laughter of children that stopped abruptly whenever she approached. Samuel was recovering, though slowly. Desba had taken charge of his care with the efficiency that both relieved and frightened Maria. The older woman fed him goat's milk from a leather pouch with a small reed attached, and within 2 days, color had begun to return to his tiny face. He slept more peacefully now, no longer crying with that desperate, hungry wail that had haunted Maria's nightmares. But Maria herself felt like a ghost, hovering at the edges of a life she didn't understand. Each morning, Nako would come to collect her for work. Her contract specified that she would provide labor in exchange for food and shelter, and he took that obligation seriously. She hauled water from the stream until her arms trembled, scraped animal hides until her fingers bled, and gathered firewood until her back screamed in protest. The work was harder than anything she had done in Silver Creek, but Maria didn't complain. She had made a bargain, and she would honor it. More than that, she was determined to prove she wasn't weak, wasn't useless, wasn't just another burden. On the 4th day, everything changed. Maria was kneeling by the stream, filling water vessels under the watchful supervision of an Apache woman named Kiona. The woman had barely spoken to her beyond terse instructions, her face set in lines of permanent disapproval. As Maria struggled with the heavy pottery, trying to balance it on her hip the way Kiona had demonstrated, a child's scream split the air. Maria's head whipped around. A small boy, no more than 4 years old, had ventured too close to the water's edge, where the bank was steep and slippery. Even as Maria watched, his foot slipped, and he tumbled into the stream with a splash. She didn't think. She dropped the vessel and ran. The current in that part of the stream was stronger than it looked, and the boy was already being swept downstream, his head bobbing under the surface. Maria plunged in without hesitation, the cold water shocking her system. She had learned to swim in the irrigation ditches near Silver Creek, though her father had scolded her for it, saying it wasn't proper for a girl. Now, that improper skill might save a life. She swam hard against the current, her sodden dress dragging at her limbs. The boy surfaced again, coughing and crying, his small arms flailing. Maria reached him just as he started to go under again, grabbing hold of his shirt and pulling him against her chest. Getting back to shore was harder. The current fought her, and the boy panicked, nearly pulling them both under. But Maria gritted her teeth and kicked hard, angling toward the bank where she had seen shallower water. Her foot found purchase on the rocky bottom, and she half walked, half crawled to shore. The boy clutched tight in her arms. She collapsed on the bank, coughing and gasping. The boy was crying, but he was breathing, alive. Maria held him until his mother came running, a young woman with fear stark in her eyes. The woman snatched the child from Maria's arms, checking him frantically, speaking rapidly in Apache. By then, a crowd had gathered. Kiona stood among them, her expression unreadable. Nako appeared, pushing through the onlookers, his eyes moving from Maria's soaked form to the crying child, to the stream. The boy's mother turned to Maria, and for a long moment, their eyes met. Then, slowly, the woman reached out and touched Maria's shoulder. She spoke one word, clear and deliberate in English, "Thank you." It wasn't much, just 2 words, but they broke something open in Maria's chest and she found herself crying, not from fear or exhaustion, but from the overwhelming relief of being seen as something other than an outsider, other than a servant, other than a burden. That evening, the atmosphere in the settlement was different. The boy's mother, whose name Maria learned was Ayana, brought her a clean dress to replace her sodden one. It was traditional Apache clothing, doe-skin decorated with small beads, and Maria held it with trembling hands, understanding the significance of the gift. Desba helped her put it on, her weathered hands gentle as she adjusted the fit. "You did good thing," the older woman said in her careful English. "Brave thing." At the evening meal, Maria was invited to sit closer to the central fire instead of at the edges as she had before. Children who had previously avoided her now stared with curious rather than hostile eyes. When Samuel was brought to her so she could hold him while she ate, several women smiled at the sight. Nako sat across from her, and when their eyes met, he nodded once. It was a small gesture, but Maria understood it. She had crossed some invisible threshold. She wasn't trusted yet, not entirely, but she was no longer simply an outsider either. Later, as the fire burned down to embers and the settlement prepared for sleep, Desba taught Maria her first words in Apache. Simple words: water, fire, child, thank you. Maria repeated them carefully, her tongue stumbling over the unfamiliar sounds. "Good," Desba said, and though her face remained serious, there was warmth in her eyes. "You learn. Tomorrow, more words, step by step." That night, Maria lay on her mat with Samuel sleeping peacefully beside her. And for the first time since her parents died, she felt something that might have been hope. The path ahead was still uncertain, the challenges still immense. But she had proven something important today, not just to the Apache people, but to herself. She was stronger than she knew. And perhaps, just perhaps, this strange new world might have room for a girl and her brother after all. The weeks that followed brought subtle but significant changes to Maria's life in the settlement. She woke each morning before dawn, as the Apache women did, and learned to move quietly so as not to disturb Samuel's sleep. Desba had become her teacher in more than just language. The older woman showed her how to prepare cornmeal properly, how to identify edible plants on the hillsides, how to tan hides so they remained soft and supple. Maria's hands, once smooth from her sheltered life in Silver Creek, became calloused and strong. Her body grew lean and capable, and slowly, painfully, the Apache language began to make sense to her. Not full fluency, but enough to understand simple conversations, enough to communicate basic needs and gratitude. Samuel thrived under Desba's care. At 10 months old now, he had gained weight, his cheeks filling out and his eyes bright with curiosity. He smiled readily at Desba and even at Nako, who would sometimes carry the infant on his shoulders while doing his morning rounds of the settlement. It both warmed and broke Maria's heart to see her brother bonding with these people who had shown them such unexpected kindness. But not everyone in the settlement was welcoming. There was a young warrior named Kuruk, who made no secret of his distrust. He was perhaps 19 or 20, with a fierce pride that bordered on arrogance. Whenever Maria passed, he would turn away or make comments in Apache that she couldn't fully understand, but whose hostile tone was unmistakable. One afternoon, as Maria helped Ayana prepare deer meat for drying, Kuruk approached with two other young men. He spoke rapidly in Apache, gesturing toward Maria with clear disdain. Ayana responded sharply, her voice rising, but Kuruk only laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. Nako appeared then, stepping between Maria and the young warriors. His voice was quiet, but carried an authority that silenced Kuruk immediately. The two men faced each other, tension crackling in the air like lightning before a storm. Finally, Kuruk spat on the ground near Maria's feet and walked away, his companions following. Maria's hands shook as she returned to her work. Nako remained standing beside her for a moment before speaking. He lost his brother to white soldiers 2 winters ago. He sees you and remembers only pain. "I'm sorry," Maria whispered. "I'm sorry for what my people did to his brother. I'm sorry for all of it." Nako looked at her with those dark, unreadable eyes. "Your sorrow changes nothing. Only your actions matter. You saved a child. You work hard. You respect our ways. These things speak louder than apologies." He paused, then added, "But be careful around Kuruk. His anger runs deep." That evening, as Maria fed Samuel goat's milk under Desba's watchful eye, the older woman spoke thoughtfully. "You want to learn more? Our ways, our stories?" Maria nodded eagerly. "Yes, I want to understand. I want Samuel to understand when he's older. This place, these people, they saved us. I don't want to remain ignorant." Desba smiled, a rare expression that transformed her weathered face. "Tomorrow, I teach you women's songs, songs we sing when we prepare food, when we give thanks to the earth. You have good voice. I hear you sing to the baby." Over the following weeks, Desba kept her promise. She taught Maria songs in Apache, melodic, rhythmic chants that spoke of the turning seasons, of gratitude for the hunt, of protection for children. Maria learned them phonetically at first, not understanding all the words, but gradually their meaning became clear. She also learned practical skills that would have scandalized the women of Silver Creek. Ayana taught her to use a bow for hunting small game. Kiona, who had warmed to her after the rescue, showed her how to weave baskets from dried grasses and how to make dye from crushed berries and roots. Each skill felt like a bridge being built, not just between her old life and her new one, but between two worlds that had been at war for so long. One night, sitting by the fire while Samuel slept peacefully on a blanket nearby, Maria worked on a basket she was weaving. Her fingers moved with increasing confidence through the familiar motions. Nako sat across from her, repairing a leather strap on his saddle. "You've changed," he said suddenly, not looking up from his work. Maria paused, considering his words. "I had to. The girl who stole bread in Silver Creek, she wouldn't have survived here." "No," Nako agreed, "but you did more than survive. You chose to understand. Many would simply endure until their contract ended, counting the days until they could leave. You chose differently." "Where would I go?" Maria asked softly. "Samuel and I have nowhere else. This is our home now, whether I chose it or not. I thought it might be better to make it a real home rather than a prison." Nako finally looked at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. It wasn't pity or even sympathy. It was respect, genuine, hard-won respect. "My sister would have liked you," he said quietly. "She had your same fire, your same refusal to break." Before Maria could respond, a commotion erupted at the edge of the settlement. Shouts rang out in Apache, urgent and alarmed. Nako was on his feet instantly, and Maria scooped up Samuel, her heart pounding. Through the gathering darkness, she could see riders approaching, at least a dozen of them, and the firelight glinted off the metal of their weapons. White men, soldiers, and they were riding straight toward the settlement with the unmistakable purpose of those who had not come in peace. The soldiers reined their horses to a halt at the edge of the settlement, close enough that Maria could see their faces in the firelight. Her stomach dropped. Leading them was Lieutenant Morrison, a man she recognized from Silver Creek, a hard, ambitious officer known for his ruthless efficiency in dealing with Apache bands. The women quickly gathered the children, pulling them back toward the dwellings. The men of the settlement formed a loose line, weapons at hand but not raised. The tension was so thick, Maria could barely breathe. She held Samuel tight against her chest, his small body warm and trusting. Nako stepped forward, his posture calm but alert. "What brings soldiers to our settlement? We have treaty. We cause no trouble." Lieutenant Morrison's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "We're tracking raiders who attacked a wagon train 2 days ago. 5 dead, goods stolen. Witnesses described Apache warriors heading in this direction." "We raid no wagons," Nako said firmly. "We keep treaty. We stay on our land." "Your word against witnesses," Morrison replied, his hand resting on his pistol. "We'll need to search your settlement. Make sure you're not hiding stolen goods or the raiders themselves." Maria saw the fury flash across the faces of the Apache men. This was an insult, a violation. The treaty guaranteed them sovereignty on their own land. But she also saw the calculating coldness in Morrison's eyes. He was looking for an excuse, any excuse, for violence. Before the situation could escalate, Maria stepped forward. Samuel whimpered at the sudden movement, and every eye turned toward her. She saw Morrison's surprise, saw recognition dawn in his face. "Maria Rodriguez!" His voice carried disbelief. "What in God's name are you doing here?" "I live here, Lieutenant." Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. "And I can tell you these people had nothing to do with any raid. They've been here, peaceful, following the treaty." Morrison's expression hardened. "You're just a girl, and a servant at that. What could you possibly know about—" "I know these people," Maria interrupted, her voice gaining strength. "I know them better than you ever could from behind a rifle. They took me and my brother in when we were starving. They've shown us nothing but kindness. If you're looking for raiders, you're looking in the wrong place." A murmur ran through the soldiers. One of them, a younger man, spoke up. "Lieutenant, maybe she's right. This doesn't look like a raiding party's camp. No stolen goods visible, and they're mostly women and children here." Morrison's jaw clenched. "And maybe she's been turned against her own people." "It happens. These savages are clever that way." The word savages hit Maria like a physical blow. She thought of Desba patiently teaching her Apache songs, of Ayana trusting her with her child, of Nahko speaking of his lost sister with such quiet grief. These weren't savages. They were people. Complex, caring, grieving people trying to survive in a world that wanted them erased. "They're not savages," Maria said, her voice low but clear. "They're human beings. And if you search this camp, you'll find nothing but families trying to live in peace. But if you're determined to cause trouble, to break the treaty yourself, then I'll testify to that. I'll write to the territorial governor. I'll make sure everyone knows that you violated a legal agreement." It was a bluff, mostly. Maria had no idea if the governor would listen to a 12-year-old servant girl, but Morrison didn't know that. She saw the calculation in his eyes, weighing his options. He wanted glory, wanted to look decisive and strong. But starting an incident based on false accusations with a white witness to contradict him could destroy his career. Finally, Morrison pulled his horse's reins sharply. "We'll continue our search elsewhere. But I'll be watching this settlement, girl. And you better hope you haven't made the wrong choice about where your loyalties lie." The soldiers wheeled their horses and rode back into the darkness, leaving only dust and tension in their wake. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Desba approached Maria, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You spoke truth," the older woman said in careful English. "Spoke for us when you could have stayed silent." "Why?" Maria looked around at the faces surrounding her, some grateful, some still suspicious, all watching her closely. She thought about the question, about the girl she had been in Silver Creek and the person she was becoming here. When she answered, the truth of it resonated in her bones. Because you're my people now. This is my home, and I protect what's mine. Nako stepped forward, and in front of the entire settlement, he placed his hand over his heart in a gesture of respect. You have proven yourself, not just with words, but with action. You stood between your old world and your new one, and you chose with courage. Later, after Samuel had been fed and settled for the night, Maria sat alone by the dying fire. Her hands still trembled slightly from the confrontation. She had crossed a line tonight, one she could never uncross. She had chosen the Apache people over her own kind, had spoken out against soldiers who looked like her, talked like her, came from the same world she did. But as she watched the peaceful settlement around her, at the children sleeping safely in their mother's arms, at the trust she saw in Desba's eyes when the older woman brought her tea made from mint leaves, Maria knew she had made the right choice. She wasn't the starving, desperate girl who had stolen bread anymore. She was something new, something stronger, and for the first time in her life, she truly belonged somewhere. The morning after the soldiers' visit, Maria woke to find the settlement transformed. Where before there had been cautious acceptance, now there was something warmer. Women nodded to her as she passed. Children no longer scattered when she approached. Even Kuruk, though still maintaining his distance, no longer made hostile comments when their paths crossed. Samuel had just turned 1 year old, and the change in him was remarkable. He was walking now, taking wobbly steps between Desba and Maria, laughing when he fell onto the soft buffalo hide that covered the floor of their dwelling. He babbled constantly, a mixture of sounds that seemed to pull from both English and Apache, creating his own unique language that everyone somehow understood. Watching him, Maria sometimes felt a pang of bittersweet emotion. Her mother and father would never see this, would never witness Samuel's first steps, never hear his laughter, never see how loved he was in this unlikely place. But she knew deep in her soul that they would have been grateful. Her parents had wanted safety and happiness for their children above all else. Here, against all odds, Maria had found both. One afternoon, as Maria helped Ayana prepare medicinal herbs for drying, Desba approached with a bundle wrapped in soft deerskin. The older woman's weathered face was serious as she held it out. "For you," Desba said simply. Maria unwrapped the bundle with careful hands. Inside was a dress, not the simple work clothing she had been wearing, but a ceremonial garment. The doeskin was butter soft, decorated with intricate beadwork in patterns that Maria had learned represented protection, strength, and new beginnings. The amount of work required to create such a garment was staggering. "I can't accept this," Maria whispered, overwhelmed. "It's too much, too precious." Desba's expression softened. "You are daughter now, not just worker, not just contract, daughter. This dress says so. Everyone will know." Tears blurred Maria's vision. In the Apache way, Desba was formally adopting her into the family. It meant she would have the rights and protections of a blood daughter. It meant she truly belonged. "Thank you," Maria managed, her voice breaking. "Thank you for everything. For Samuel, for me, for..." Desba pulled her into an embrace, something the older woman rarely did. "You saved my grandson," she said quietly, referring to the boy Maria had pulled from the stream. "But more than that, you chose us. You could hate us for the contract, for taking you from your world. Instead, you love us. That is gift I never expected." That evening, there was a gathering around the central fire. Nako stood and spoke in Apache, his voice carrying across the assembled people. Maria understood enough now to catch the meaning. He was formally recognizing her place in the community, her transition from indentured servant to adopted family member. When he finished, he turned to Maria and spoke in English so she would understand every word. "Your contract is ended. You are free, free to stay, free to go, free to choose your path. What do you choose?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Maria looked around the circle of faces, Desba with her quiet strength, Ayana with her warm smile, the children who now played with Samuel without fear, Kuruk standing at the edge, watching with something that might have been grudging respect. This was her family now. This was home. "I choose to stay," Maria said clearly, "if you'll have me. Not as a servant, but as family." A ripple of approval moved through the gathering. Nako smiled, a rare, genuine expression that transformed his usually stoic face. "Then it is done. You are Apache now, you and the boy, both." Later, wearing her new ceremonial dress, Maria danced for the first time around the central fire. The women had taught her the steps over the past weeks, slow, rhythmic movements that honored the earth and sky. She felt clumsy and self-conscious at first, but gradually the rhythm seeped into her bones, and she understood that this dance was about more than movement. It was about belonging, about transformation, about becoming something new while honoring what came before. Samuel watched from Desba's arms, his eyes wide with wonder as his sister moved in the firelight. He clapped his small hands together, and his laughter rang out like bells, pure and joyful. As the fire burned low and the stars wheeled overhead, Nako approached Maria. "Walk with me," he said simply. They walked to the edge of the settlement, where the land sloped down toward the valley. The night was clear, the moon nearly full, painting everything in silver light. "I want to tell you something," Nako said after a long silence. "About my sister. Her name was Tyen. She died protecting children during a raid, white soldiers attacking our camp. She was only 14. He paused, his voice thick with old grief. "When I saw you in that jail, holding your brother, I saw her. Saw her courage, her refusal to abandon those weaker than herself. That's why I paid your price, not charity. Recognition." Maria's throat tightened. "I'm honored that I reminded you of her. But Nako, I'm not brave. I was just desperate, terrified. Courage is not absence of fear," he said, turning to face her. "It is acting despite fear. You have that. You've always had it." In that moment, under the vast New Mexico sky, Maria understood that she had truly found her place in the world. 6 months had passed since Maria's formal adoption into the tribe. Winter had arrived, bringing cold winds that swept down from the mountains and covered the valley in a thin blanket of snow. Maria had learned to prepare the settlement for the harsh season, helping to seal the dwellings against drafts, preserving food, gathering extra firewood. Samuel, now 16 months old, toddled around in tiny moccasins Desba had made for him, chattering in his mixture of languages. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm, and Maria had begun to believe that perhaps the worst was behind them. She should have known better. The trouble arrived on a gray afternoon when a young Apache boy came running into the settlement, breathless and terrified. He spoke rapidly to Nako, his words tumbling over each other. Maria caught enough to understand the crisis. A group of white settlers' children had gotten lost in the hills during a hunting trip. They had been missing for 2 days, and with the temperature dropping rapidly, they would likely freeze to death before morning. The settlement erupted into urgent discussion. Several men argued for staying out of it entirely. "Not our problem," one warrior said harshly. "White children lost on white man's land." But Nako's face was grave. "They are children. Just children. We cannot let them die when we have the skills to find them." Kuruk stepped forward, his expression dark. "And what happens when we bring them back? Will the white soldiers thank us? Or will they accuse us of taking them, use it as excuse for more violence against our people? Maria's heart pounded. Kuruk was right. The situation was dangerous. But the thought of children dying in the frozen wilderness, terrified and alone, was unbearable. Before she could stop herself, she spoke. "Let me go with the search party. If we find them, I can explain what happened. I can speak for you. They'll listen to another white person." The settlement fell silent. Every eye turned toward her, Desba's face filled with concern. "Too dangerous," she said firmly. "For you, for everyone." "She's right about one thing," Nako said slowly. "Having her with us might prevent misunderstandings. Or it might get her killed," Kuruk interjected. "Those settlers see her dressed like us, speaking our language, living as Apache. They might think we corrupted her, turned her against her own kind." Maria lifted her chin. "Then that's a risk I'll take. Those children need help, and I can provide it in a way none of you can. This is something I can do, something I should do." After more heated discussion, Nako finally nodded. A search party was formed. Nako, Kuruk, 2 other experienced trackers, and Maria. Desba held Samuel tightly as Maria kissed her brother goodbye, whispering promises to return safely. The search was grueling. They tracked through increasingly rough terrain as daylight faded. Maria's feet, despite the warm moccasins, grew numb with cold. Her lungs burned from the icy air. But she pushed forward, matching the Apache men's pace as they read signs in the snow that were invisible to her untrained eyes. As darkness fell completely, Kuruk suddenly held up his hand. "There," he said quietly, pointing to a small cave opening partially hidden by brush. "I hear crying." They approached carefully. Inside the cave, huddled together for warmth, were 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, ranging in age from perhaps 6 to 10 years old. They were shivering violently, their lips blue, clearly in the advanced stages of hypothermia. When they saw the Apache men, terror flooded their faces. The oldest boy grabbed a stick, holding it up like a weapon despite his trembling hands. "Stay back!" he screamed. "Stay away from us!" Maria pushed past Nako, dropping to her knees at the cave entrance. "It's okay," she said quickly in English. "These men are here to help you. I'm Maria. We're going to take you home." The children stared at her with confusion and desperate hope. You're white," the girl said through chattering teeth, "but you're dressed like them." "Why are you with them?" "Because they're good people," Maria said simply. "And right now, they're the only ones who can save your lives. Will you trust me?" The children had little choice. Nako and the others worked quickly, sharing their own blankets, building a small fire, feeding the children dried meat and warming them gradually. Too fast could be dangerous. Maria stayed close, speaking softly in English, keeping them calm. As the children stabilized, the oldest boy, whose name was Thomas, looked at Maria with curiosity replacing his fear. "Do you live with them? With the Indians?" "With the Apache, yes," Maria corrected gently. "They're my family now. They took me in when I had nowhere else to go. They saved my little brother's life." "But aren't you scared?" the girl, Rebecca, asked. "Everyone in town says they're dangerous, that they kill people." Maria looked at Nako, who sat quietly maintaining the fire, his face unreadable. She thought of everything she had learned, all the kindness shown to her, the love that had transformed her life. "Some people are dangerous," she said carefully, "but not because of their blood or their language. These men tracked you through a blizzard to save your lives. Does that sound dangerous to you?" The journey back was slower, complicated by the need to carry the youngest child who couldn't walk. As dawn broke, they finally emerged from the wilderness near the children's settlement. A group of frantic adults rushed toward them, and Maria's stomach clenched with apprehension. Among them was Lieutenant Morrison, his face hardening as he recognized the Apache men. His hand moved toward his weapon. "Wait!" Maria shouted, stepping between them. "They saved your children." "They've been searching all night. If not for them, these kids would be dead." The tension was palpable as the two groups faced each other across the snow-covered ground. Morrison's hand remained on his pistol, his eyes fixed on Nako with unmistakable hostility. Behind him, the settlers gripped their weapons, ready for violence. The Apache men stood calm but alert, prepared to defend themselves if necessary. "Step aside, girl," Morrison said coldly. "You don't know what you're dealing with." "I know exactly what I'm dealing with," Maria replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Heroes. These men could have stayed warm and safe in their own settlement. Instead, they risked their lives to save children who aren't their own." Before Morrison could respond, Thomas stepped forward, shrugging off his mother's restraining hand. "She's telling the truth," the boy said loudly. "They found us in a cave. We were dying. They gave us their blankets, built us a fire, fed us. They saved our lives." Rebecca joined him, her small voice gaining confidence. And Maria explained everything. "She lives with them. They're her family. They're not what we were told. They're not monsters." Thomas's mother rushed forward, tears streaming down her face as she embraced her son. But then she did something unexpected. She turned to Nako and, with trembling hands, reached out to touch his arm in gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for bringing my boy back." One by one, the other parents approached, their fear melting into overwhelming relief and gratitude. They thanked the Apache men awkwardly, uncertain of the protocol but genuine in their emotion. Morrison stood alone, his justification for violence dissolving before his eyes. Finally, the lieutenant holstered his weapon. "You got lucky this time," he said to Nako, his voice tight. "But don't expect this to change anything. The treaty is still fragile, and one wrong move, Lieutenant." Everyone turned to see an older man approaching on horseback, distinguished, well-dressed, carrying himself with unmistakable authority. Maria recognized him from descriptions she'd heard. Governor Wallace, the territorial governor himself. "I received word about the missing children," Wallace said, dismounting with practiced ease. "I rode through the night to offer assistance, but it seems the situation has resolved itself." His keen eyes took in the scene, the rescued children, the grateful parents, the Apache men standing with quiet dignity, and Maria positioned between both worlds. Morrison straightened. "Governor Wallace, sir, I can see what you were doing, Lieutenant." Wallace's tone was cool. "I can also see that these Apache men performed a remarkable act of courage and compassion. They saved the lives of 3 of our children." He turned to Nako. "Your name?" "Nako," the Apache man replied. "And this is not remarkable. This is simply right. Children should not die when help is available." Governor Wallace studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "There are many in Santa Fe who could learn from your wisdom." He turned to Maria. "And you are?" "Maria Rodriguez, sir. I live with Nako's people. They saved my brother and me when we had nothing. Now I try to help them when I can." "You've done more than help," Wallace said. "You've built a bridge, a living example that understanding is possible between our peoples." He looked at the assembled crowd, settlers and Apache alike. "This is what peace looks like. Not treaties signed by politicians in distant capitals, but individuals choosing compassion over fear, choosing to see humanity in those different from themselves." He turned to Morrison. "Lieutenant, you will submit a full report about this incident. Make sure it emphasizes the heroism of these Apache men and the role this young woman played in facilitating cooperation between our communities. This story needs to be told widely." Morrison's jaw clenched, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." As Governor Wallace prepared to depart, he paused beside Maria. "There's a school opening in Santa Fe, a place where Apache and white children can learn together. We need someone who understands both worlds, someone who can teach them to see past their differences. Would you be interested?" Maria's breath caught. It was an incredible opportunity, a chance to do something meaningful, to help prevent future conflicts by educating children in understanding rather than fear. But she looked at Nako, at the Apache men who had become her brothers, and thought of Desba and Samuel waiting back at the settlement. "Can I think about it?" she asked. Wallace smiled. "Of course. But don't wait too long. The world needs more people like you." As the crowd dispersed and the Apache men prepared to return home, Thomas approached Maria one last time. "Thank you," he said quietly, "not just for today, for teaching me that everything I thought I knew was wrong. I'll remember that." Maria knelt to his level. "Tell others what you learned. That's how things change, one person at a time, one story at a time." The journey back to the settlement was quiet, each person lost in their own thoughts. As they crested the final ridge and saw their home spread below them, Kuruk spoke for the first time since the rescue. "You did well," he said gruffly to Maria. "My brother would have approved." It was the closest thing to acceptance Maria had ever received from him, and it meant more than any grand speech could have. 5 years had passed since that winter rescue, and the world had changed in ways Maria could never have imagined. She stood at the entrance of the school in Santa Fe, watching children of all backgrounds stream through the doors. Apache, white settlers, Mexican families, all learning together. The building itself was modest, but what happened within its walls was revolutionary. Maria had accepted Governor Wallace's offer, but on her own terms. She spent half her time teaching in Santa Fe and the other half in the Apache settlement, ensuring that Samuel remained connected to both worlds. Now, 6 years old, Samuel was fluent in English, Spanish, and Apache. He moved between cultures with the ease of someone who had never known they were supposed to be separate. Today was special. Desba had made the journey to Santa Fe, accompanied by Nako and several other members of their settlement. They came to witness Maria's official appointment as the school's permanent director, a position that recognized her unique ability to bridge divided worlds. As Maria stood before the assembled crowd of parents, teachers, and territorial officials, she saw Desba in the front row, wearing her finest ceremonial dress. Beside her, Samuel sat with perfect posture, his dark eyes shining with pride for his sister. Nako stood at the back, his usual stoic expression softened by what might have been a smile. 5 years ago, Maria began, her voice carrying across the room, I was a desperate girl who stole bread to keep her brother alive. I had lost everything, my parents, my home, my hope. I thought my life was over. She paused, looking at the faces before her. But I was wrong. My life was just beginning. She spoke of the Apache settlement, of Desba's kindness, of Nako's courage in seeing past fear to offer help. She spoke of learning a new language, new customs, new ways of understanding the world. She spoke of the rescue that changed everything, of children from different worlds learning to trust each other. We are taught to fear what we don't understand, she continued. We are taught that different means dangerous. But I stand before you as living proof that this is a lie. The people who were supposed to be my enemies became my family. The world that was supposed to be savage became my home. Not because I abandoned who I was, but because I opened my heart to who they were. After the ceremony, as refreshments were served, Maria found herself surrounded by well-wishers. But it was Desba's approach that made her pause. The older woman held out a bundle wrapped in soft cloth. "For you," Desba said simply. Inside was a necklace, a delicate piece of turquoise and silver, crafted in the Apache way. Maria had seen Desba wearing it countless times. It had belonged to the older woman's own mother. "I can't take this," Maria whispered. "It's too precious." "You are precious," Desba replied. "You are my daughter. This is so you always remember where you belong." Maria embraced her adopted mother, tears flowing freely. Over Desba's shoulder, she saw Nako with Samuel on his shoulders, the little boy laughing as he pretended to be a mighty warrior. The sight filled her heart to overflowing. Later, as the sun set over Santa Fe, painting the adobe buildings in gold and amber, Maria sat with her family, both her adopted Apache family and the new family she had built through the school. Children played together without regard for the boundaries adults tried to impose. Parents from different worlds shared food and conversation, their initial awkwardness giving way to genuine connection. Nako approached, standing beside her in comfortable silence. "You did this," he said finally, "built something that will last beyond our lifetimes." "We did this," Maria corrected. "You showed me that courage means choosing compassion over fear. That family is not about blood, but about choice and love. Everything I've built here started that day when you looked at a desperate girl in a jail cell and saw someone worth saving." "I saw my sister," Nako said quietly, "but you became something more. You became a bridge, and bridges change the world." As stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Maria thought about the bread that started everything, stolen in desperation, leading to her lowest moment. That single loaf of bread had somehow led to this, a school where children learned that differences could be celebrated rather than feared, a community where understanding replaced suspicion, a life where she had found purpose and belonging. Samuel ran up, breathless and happy, speaking in a jumble of all three languages. Maria scooped him into her arms, holding him close. Her little brother, who had been dying in her arms, was now thriving, confident, loved, and secure in a world that honored all parts of who he was. "Time to go home," she said softly. And for the first time in her life, Maria knew exactly where home was. Not a place, but a feeling. Not a single culture, but a bridge between worlds. Home was wherever love lived, wherever courage bloomed, wherever people chose understanding over fear. Home was here. Home was now. Home was forever.